So the average person spends between 25 and 30 years of their life working. It's roughly 90,000 hours. Today on the podcast, we're talking about navigating the tensions and tendencies of the workplace, the joys and the headaches of working with people. Sometimes you love them, sometimes you can't stand them. Hey, welcome to Fully Alive with Jeff Capusta. Today on the show, we're joined by one of our executive pastors at LifePoint Church, Kevin Lloyd. So good to have you with us today.
Thanks, PJ. It's good to be here.
It's
So
great.
It's on. I feel like I made it.
You,
I may have arrived. I'm on the podcast.
Well, I asked my wife if this was a bucket list item of being on the show, and she said no. So,
Listen, I haven't slept in 3 days. This is the most excited I've been in a long time. So it's a bucket list. I made it. I made it.
Well, so for those of you that aren't familiar, maybe myself or the show, so I pastor a church in coastal North Carolina in the Wilmington area. Pastor Kevin joined our team back in 2021 as the executive pastor of ministries. What in the world does that even mean?
It's funny.
Can you make sense of like church titles real quick?
I'll do my best. It's funny. I had this conversation at the gym yesterday with a couple of people that thought my role was different than what it is because of the word executive.
Well, the executive in the business world means that you are in charge.
Right. What does that mean?
It's a little different in the church world. So explain that.
It's totally different. So typically in the church space, senior pastor, lead pastor is effectively the founder or CEO. And for somebody in my role, we would serve more in the COO function, operations, marketing, strategy. It would be more that realm. For me personally, what I do is everything that's I would call forward facing at our church. So anything that reaches into our community, our campuses, our ministries, anything that's helping move growth and think about what's going to move the needle in terms of growing what we do and our impact and our outreach. I read a book years ago. It's by Donald Miller. It's just about running a business called Business Made Simple. I don't know how you are. I definitely need things made simple.
I need cookies on the bottom shelf. Yes.
Exactly. You can tell by my accent that I'm not winning any IQ contests. But he talks about in there that for any successful organization, there are 3 roles that you need to have fulfilled at the top. One is the visionary. Sometimes that's the founder. It's also the creative. They're the person that are thinking about the product that's going to go to market. In our case, that would be you. That's the person that's thinking about, hey, what do we introduce to our church? What is this new initiative? What are we talking about on weekends? Then you have an operator. That's the person that kind of keeps the ship afloat, if you will. We want to make sure we have enough, money at the end of our month. We want to make sure that we're able to plan for what's ahead. And then you have what he calls an entrepreneur. It's the person that's thinking about the product. How do we help that product scale? So we have a leadership team of 3 that fall pretty cleanly into those categories. You are the visionary. We have another executive pastor, Pastor Daryl, who forms that operation side. And then I kind of think of myself as the entrepreneur, the one that's thinking about how do we take the vision and the ideas and the dreams and how do we put legs to them to make them not only work, but how do they work in mass? How do they continue to grow?
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of the benefits that I've had since the beginning, again, 19 years as a church, is we started and I had a number 2 that really helped with a lot of that execution. And then as the team grew, we realized we needed to diversify some of that at the top. And the reason I wanted you on the podcast today is because a large majority of our listeners are employers and employees. Again, third of our life is spent at work. And one of the things I've been incredibly blessed with is that I have a highly cohesive team at our church. And I don't think this is not a church thing. I think this can be a business thing. We have highly cohesive team, high performers, high unity, high loyalty, accountability. Then we have a weird dynamic where we're actually friends. Like we really do enjoy being around each other, and it's a unique find, but I don't think it has to be. And however, though, championing this type of culture requires a lot of intentionality in the organization. So I just thought I'd throw to you, like, you and I work very closely together. What would you say makes this dynamic work?
So I would say when I was considering coming on your team, the number one question that I asked was, is he healthy? Because for me, I needed to make sure that what I was hitching my wagon to, so to speak, was healthy and was worthy of like the investment to grow close to and to build trust around. Because when you're on a team, health has to be the number one thing. It's the thing that helps us to, we actually say it on our team that we lead well because we are well.
Right.
And so when it comes to that dynamic, health matters because you build trust on the foundation of health. And so the thing that from day one, you and I've been working on building, and it's what we've had for almost 20 years in our organization, is we've had a foundation of trust. So it's constantly working to like facilitate that. That stuff doesn't just happen. You and I spend time at the gym working out together because again, you're learning how to like we say in CrossFit world, suffer together.
Right.
And if you can suffer
Misery
together,
loves company.
exactly right. And if you can do that, you're learning like how far can I push
Right.
this trust. So it's showing up, never assuming that's there. Like we assume the best about one another, but at the same time, I'm coming in as the new guy. I have to work to build that trust. So I'm making a lot more deposits in that than I'm making withdrawals from. Sometimes I've noticed that on a team, someone will come in and instantly, maybe because of a title or because they've got some years under their
Right.
belt.
Kind of where I came from. Do you know
Exactly.
who I am?
Exactly. And what you have to understand is when you're on a team, you have to build trust with that team. John Maxwell has a great book, The 360-Degree Leader, and he talks about you have to build equity up with the people that you serve under. You have to build equity laterally with the people you serve with, and then you have to build it down with the people that you lead. And so that dynamic of trust is a big thing. And then you just have to understand it's never a destination, it's always a journey. Like you're making deposits and withdrawals from that trust bank. So you're always working to keep that fresh. You're fighting for unity. Like it's not if you're going to disagree, it's when you're going to disagree. So you have to be able to fight fair and make sure that that unity always is paramount. To lead with a team, you know this, it's a lot of selflessness because the moment that selfishness starts to creep in and you think, well, I should get mine.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden you just drive wedges in a team.
Well, I know. So when you came in, I mean, we knew each other a little bit,
Right.
but not that great.
No, yeah.
And it was probably within the first couple months. I remember you and I went to lunch, and you asked me a question that I almost didn't have an answer for. We're over lunch, and you said, "What are you dreaming of?"
Mhm.
And for what it's worth, again, I have a fantastic team,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like anybody had asked me that question in a long time. And you made it very clear that part of what you wanted to do was to get the dreams that were in my heart out of my head and my heart and to become a reality. So part of our conversation is like, well, man, I've been thinking about, or what if we were to try?
Yeah.
And every time I got a new idea, it was met with, we can do that.
Yeah.
That's actually, no, that's easy. That's easy. And then you would take it and you would run with it. And I just remember going home telling my wife, like Kevin asked me what I was dreaming of. And I had to sit for a minute because I felt like I had kind of quit dreaming. And it's caused me to kind of come back to this place of like, man, what is next and what are we going to do? And so I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you. And to the guys that are watching, maybe you're new to a team. I promise you, your direct report, your supervisor is probably sitting on some idea or some dream that they may not have the bandwidth to employ, but your job, and it's a weird thing for me to say, your job is to make my life easier. Your job is to take things off of me.
It's real.
But that's a weird staff meeting to hold. Like, hey, everybody, welcome to staff meeting. Here's how you can help serve me. And the fact that you took the initiative, I just want to say how much I appreciate that. And I think it's something that has even strengthened our relationship
Yeah.
a great deal. So I'm grateful for that. So here's a question I want to ask you. All right. So you can be specific. All right. What's the memes going around as we listen and we don't judge? Okay. What have you learned in the 4 years of putting up with me? Okay. And it could be about how I'm wired, how you're wired, how you've shaped your leadership around me and your understanding of how I'm wired. Because again, you're to help kind of lift the hands and the dreams and the visions, and every boss is different. You've had to assess me.
Yeah.
How has that impacted the way that you show up to work and come alongside me?
No, it's been first of all, it's been a pleasure to do that. So
Well, you
it's
have to
really
say that.
it's really
Thank you.
well, it's really been fun. And I'll say that I'm fortunate in that I haven't had to augment a lot. Like I don't have to put a lot of my personality on the shelf to work alongside you and with you and serve what God's put in you and the vision that you have. What I do think is coming in, you're a different leader than I've ever worked for.
Okay.
Meaning that you're one of the more creative in the moment.
All right.
Like you can come up with things that we even have some similar strengths in that. But I had never worked for somebody that had an idea a minute. So what I quickly realized was some of the things that in my previous life I've actually had to do to help generate growth, I didn't need to do that anymore. So it was for me, I had to fall out of love with wanting to try to do that. I didn't need to be the idea minute guy. So it's just really quickly to go, hey, that's not what he needs. It's not what the church needs. And I had to start mining for what is it in you that you've left lying dormant.
Okay.
Because I realized when I showed up, if I can say this, we were a wee bit stuck. We were coming out of COVID. It was kind of a, hey, it's been a rough couple years.
And admittedly, I think I could just me along with another bunch of leaders, we just quit dreaming in COVID. It was like, why dream? We just need to survive. So
And so I knew coming in, it wasn't anything anyone had done wrong. It was just playing the hand that you're dealt for so long. It does kind of squash dreams. Well, I was coming in with none of that baggage. So when I looked around, I didn't see anything better than some of the things that seemed to be lying dormant in you. So that prompted that question of, what are you dreaming of? And if anybody who's listening to this is what I would call a second chair leader, like you have someone that you're serving, whether that's as a team or individually, I think there's kind of this crosshairs that you have to discover where your senior leader lives. And you've got to answer the question and you've got to discover like what is it that they love? Because sometimes just finding out their passion can let you know where to leverage your influence. Sometimes it's figuring out what they hate.
yeah,
Like, I asked you a couple weeks ago, is there anything you're frustrated about?
right.
Let's just audit.
And in my seat, I think if I hate it, everybody hates it. So I don't want to ask you to do the thing that I hate doing because you're going to hate doing it. And I've since learned there are people that actually love the things that I hate. And so that's good.
So you gotta figure out what do they love? What do they hate? What are they dreaming of? Because that is one of the things that sometimes, and I would say this was probably the case with you, it wasn't that you didn't dream. I don't feel like, and I might be out of line saying this, I think you felt like you didn't have a safe place to say them out loud.
Okay.
So that's why I was trying to like pull those out. And even a little bit of, yeah, we can do that because you've got to give a little bit of unconditional acceptance to say, hey, that's not a crazy dream. We can make that happen. And that earns you the right to come back and go, we can make that happen, but we're going to have to not do these things in order to do that. But you can't lead with that. So you got to find what do they love? What do they hate? What are they dreaming of? And then I would say what's inside of them is what's hurt. Where have they been hurt in the past? Because sometimes as a senior leader, if you've been bruised or like there's been trust that's been lost, that lets me know, all right, I've got to work to build that. And it's in that crosshairs that you kind of find the best way to serve someone like you or any senior leader that you're working for. So as a member of a team, it's you're always fishing. You and I meet every couple of weeks. My job in those meetings is to fish. Where are you feeling? What's going on with you right now? And I'm looking for those moments of clarity, but it's up to me to ask the question. Your job is not to bring me that clarity. My job is to find it.
Okay. That's helpful. That is helpful. And I think about even what you just said, so you felt like there were dreams in here, in me, and you're asking and you're mining them out. We one of the things we do around our staff is we do personality assessments with Enneagram. I am an Enneagram 9. You're an Enneagram 3. I'm overthinking every conversation. I hate confrontation. You are almost like, who can I confront today? And how do we put points on the board? And so there's even been times you and I have talked about frustrations, and you've just gone, I'll have that conversation.
Sure.
And and not that a leader needs to abdicate that, but when you've got somebody that says, "I can have that hard conversation, you don't need to worry about it,"
Right.
that's massive. And then I think creating that safe space, I know a lot of times because we are working out together, some of the creative ideas that we've executed as a church happened sitting on the floor of the CrossFit gym post-workout going, "Hey, what if we were to,"
Yeah.
and an hour later, we've hashed out a whole new idea. You went and put together, here's a brief, here's an action plan, and I'll communicate this to the staff. And so normally for me, I would internalize that idea and I would have talked myself out of it.
Sure.
So having somebody to take it, process it, and then essentially implement it is an absolute game changer.
Yeah, and it's a tension that you manage in a number 2 seat, okay, is there's the side of me that understands you're a very relational leader. So, practically on my calendar, I don't really talk about this much, but there's kind of a rule that I don't have meetings in the afternoon that start before a certain time.
Okay.
because some of your creative brain space happens right after a workout. We typically work out at lunchtime together. So I know I need to create some margin on the back end of that just to kind of sit and listen, kind of feel out if you're in the creative mood. And if so, I don't want to have to rush out. I need to be able to let's let that marinate a little bit. So it is a little baked in, that you work to go, hey, I've got to put myself in the space where it's flowing through you, where those ideas are generating.
Okay, let me push back on that. What about the person that says, "But doesn't that just sounds selfish? Are we just here to serve like that leader? I mean, what about you? When does your idea and when does your thing? Because I could see somebody going, "Oh, so I just got to drop what I'm doing because that's when he gets creative."
Mhm.
What would you say to that person?
Yeah. I no, I mean, I would be that blunt with them.
Plain
So
and simple.
plain and simple. So there's a thing where you have to understand your senior leader. I've also worked for senior leaders that operated on a very strict time frame. They lived and died by their calendar. Things happened within the confines of a meeting. No one would have argued about that person that it was selfish. They would have said, "Well, they're just doing what you do in an organization." So it's no different. It's just you're finding what the natural strengths and talents of a leader are. It's not like you're calling me at 11 o'clock at night and going, "Hey, leave your family and come over. I'm feeling creative."
Yeah, I'm an Enneagram 9. I would never call you at 11 o'clock at night.
Right. So it's on me because knowing your personality is I've got to build that around something you're never going to ask for.
Well,
If I said to you, "Hey, I got to rush out right after we work out," you would never say, "Actually, I'd love to talk about something,"
right.
because it's interrupting me. So I've got to be, again, servant oriented, proactive, and understand part of my job is not just to serve you, but it's to sniff out what works. Like what actually moves that what creates momentum. And it was very quick that I learned it's a lot of your ideas. Like that we're in a spirit-filled organization, right? This is not just any other organization. So God speaks through, he breathes on things on through you. So my job is to figure out what works. And if it was something else that worked, I would go to that.
Yeah.
But it is those things that are just kind of flowing through you. So in this season, it may not be forever, but in this season, that's where the magic is happening. So it's up to us as a team to position ourselves around that. Again, if you were like more of an organizational leader, you're not a creative, then we're going to go to where those ideas are working, where what's creating that momentum.
Okay.
And so,
Well, for somebody that is on the receiving end of that, I just want to say thank you. It's huge. I think one of the greatest gifts to a boss or a person in charge is having what I call culture carriers or culture shapers. It's hard to be the guy in charge going, "This is how we do things around here. This is who we are."
yeah.
But when you've got a number 2 or a number 3 in the organization that is championing culture, absolute game changer. So here's a question I want to ask you. Those who are serving under a leader, um, finding the ability or having the ability to discern the best way to relate with their leader. For instance, we're a high relational culture. So there's times when I'm wearing the friend hat, then there's times where I'm wearing the boss hat or the coach hat, or I don't communicate to you like, "Hey, friend hat is on, so let's just be chill." Like, how do you discern and then base the way that we interact off of that? Because I feel like you do that really well.
Oh, well,
We
thank
can
you.
shift gears from, like, cutting up and sending each other stupid memes and reels to it's a serious conversation,
Yeah.
and you seem to pivot really well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of it's probably, if I'm being honest, some of it's a little bit just my personality. So I think there is a little bit of that. But I also think that I'm a solution-oriented person, and I am someone who, and this feels really arrogant to say out loud, but I have a pretty high emotional intelligence. And I'm always working on that. Like there's always something that I'm typically never coming in with anybody, but especially with you and leading with my agenda. I'm always walking in every room and I'm kind of surveying the room to figure out what's the vibe of the room. Before I try to influence it, what's already the tone?
Mhm.
And if I can figure out how to speak with that tone, You've ever been in a room and everybody in there is like yelling, and then one person walks in and is a whisper? If you're not careful, they're just going to get overrun by people. But the converse is true. If everybody's whispering and somebody comes in screaming, it like rattles the tone. The best way to have influence is learn how to like fall in line with what's going on, and you're going to have a moment to influence. You're going to have that moment. There's never been a time where at some point in the conversation it doesn't shift and I'm able to interject what I feel or what I think or push back on something with you. But then I've gotta be fluid enough to go, I'm playing the long game. I'm not trying to win like a battle today and get my agenda across the day and check every box. So if for you, the conversation needs to be fluid and we don't handle as many business things today, we've always got tomorrow. Like, it's okay. We're gonna be okay. So it's just it's playing the hands that you're dealt. It's being patient. It's preferring the big win over the immediate win. And it's just understanding, like, sometimes you've got to just connect before you can make an impact.
Mhm.
That's what I try to do. I don't know that that's always, a silver bullet, but I do work on that.
So there's a lot more employees than employers, obviously. What would you say to that person? They're in the organization, they probably manage, oversee a team, they may not be the point person, but what would you say to the boss or the manager that's responsible for leading a team? Are there some things that you would like, "All right, so here's what you would almost say to me, like, here's what matters, because if I'm responsible for these folks downline, this is kind of what is a big deal."
Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, and we've talked about this many times, but like clarity matters. So as much as you can be clear, actually, I would say clarity is kindness. The more that you are that. So if you're feeling like this is a strong direction I want to go in, say it.
Right.
Don't be afraid. Don't feel like it's going to land wrong. Their response is not your responsibility. So like your responsibility is to be clear. My response to that, it's ultimately the thing I'm held accountable for.
So one of the hardest things for me, I think, was in the early days, and even still today, I'll wrestle with is people will be like, what do you see? What's the vision? What's the 5-year vision?" I'm like, "I'm trying to get a vision for Sunday." You need like so, but the Bible says where there's no vision, people perish. Habakkuk 2:2 talks about write the vision down, make it plain, so that a herald can run with it. So there's power in vision. But one thing that you guys, I think our team has done a good job is there's seasons where I have very clear vision. Hey, I really feel like this is what we're supposed to do. Then there's seasons where I'm like, I don't know right now.
Sure.
So we're just going to keep running the play that we're running. So yeah, clarity and it matters, clear vision, clear goals. I know that that's a lot of what you're doing is taking that and then executing it through our team.
Well, and even as the senior leader, it's being sometimes the clarity is not as much vision as it is being clear about you. So, as a senior leader, my encouragement would be you need to really understand yourself. Self awareness is a lost art in senior leadership, like knowing how you function. So, for example, I don't need clarity about a 5-year vision. And if your senior leader gives that, great. If he doesn't, great. Like you've gotta work with what they give you. You give a little bit more seasonal, sometimes maybe a 12-month long clarity.
Well, we've made it, we've talked about how I'm a feeler. Like if I don't feel a passion around it, I just,
So that is clarity.
okay.
You saying, "Hey, I'm a feeler. So I feel things out. I'm not gonna like, no, I'm not gonna be strategic about this." That
Yeah.
is
I'm more gut than I am head.
So immediately for me, as somebody that works for you, that changes the way that I approach you.
Okay.
So because that's clarity. I don't need vision for 5 years. I need to know how you operate. And if I know how you operate, I'm good.
Okay, so you need clarity. So clarity matters. Give me something else. What's something else that strengthens this?
Yeah, so another thing that strengthens this is knowing how you as the senior leader not just want things to operate, but how you want things to feel.
Okay.
And seems a little ethereal, but it's like knowing, hey, I want meetings to feel this way. Because if I'm executing things on your behalf, then knowing that I want the tone of this to kind of operate this way, as opposed to just me like running through. I know because you're a very people person, you're relational driven. If I go into a meeting and I don't open it up with a little bit of like, "Hey, how's everybody doing? Like, let's connect. Like,
Right. You
how's
jump
how's
into
your wife?"
business, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
you're out. But also, you don't want that down the line to your team. You don't want a team that feels like they're walking on eggshells because they're going to get caught doing something wrong. You don't police or patrol me. So if my leadership is policing or patrolling other people and the feel of the organization's off, that's something that you need to know from a senior leader. You need from a senior leader, you do need trust.
Okay.
You have to build it.
So we have a value on trust. It's
We have a
funny you
value
say
on
that.
trust. Yeah.
And it is, say it if you know it.
We put trust in the gap.
There we go.
So there is always a gap of understanding. There always. Like there's times I'm sure you wake up and think, what is Kevin doing today?
Yeah, what in the world was Kevin thinking?
Right. Like
But I trust him.
yeah, it's even working today, but it's just knowing that. And now for me, I've got to build that, but from the senior leader, does have to be a certain amount of equity that's just given on the front end. Like you kind of have to say, we're going to give you all of this trust. It's up to you as to whether you earn it and keep it or whether you spend it all too quick. And so to give that on the front end.
And I can't speak for every senior leader. I know for me, because I trust you, the last thing I want to do is come back around and micromanage the project that you're over.
Yeah. And that trust in the weeds is a make or break as to whether you'll get and keep high level
Okay.
leaders. Like you will get and keep great managers. You will not get and keep great leaders.
Okay.
They will bail because they're just, I don't need another parent. I had two good ones. I'm good. I don't need all that. So like let me, if I'm trusted to lead, let me figure it out. Let me lead. I'm accused sometimes of giving too much of that bandwidth. But I've just understood that if I over police things, then I'm going to run off some of the best talent.
So clarity,
Clarity,
trust. Give me one more.
accountability, like make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Another word for that would probably be honesty. So it helps me when I know what you're thinking. I do try to like set you up for that. Like there's usually when we meet, I try to never end it without going, "Hey, is there anything about me that you don't like what's going on?" And you're in fairness, you rarely like, "Great."
Nope.
Yeah.
So there's a phrase we have in our organization. You brought it to it. And it's we give our last 10%.
Yeah.
Unpack that because there's a whole concept behind that. But
Sure.
30 seconds of what does that mean?
So most people only say 90% of what they're thinking.
Okay.
Real change, real impact happens when you say the last 10%. The first 90% is easy. Most of the time, the first 90% is kind of flattering.
Yeah.
The last 10% is where change happens, growth happens. And when you don't say 100% of what you're thinking, usually what you're settling for is not a culture of honesty. It's a culture of artificial harmony. Like you're getting along, but then you're going home and you're venting to your spouse because you really don't like what's going on. And so it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I had a leader say this to me one time. I do my best to make this promise to the people I lead is that I will never say anything about you to my wife that I'm not willing to say to you.
Oh, that's good.
And it's tough. Now, I'll sometimes go to her and go, "Hey, I'm going to say this to Pastor Jeff." And she'll go, "Whatever you do, don't say it like that."
Okay.
You'll get everybody fired. But we just have to give that promise that, "Hey, I'm going to give you my honesty. You're never going to wonder where I stand." And if a senior leader gives you that, that is such a gift. It's a gift.
So for those outside our organization, one of the things that you'll hear is, "Hey, I need to have a last 10% conversation with you." Because there's nothing worse than being like, "Hey, we need to talk." And you're like, "I wonder what this is about." And then you get hit with the last 10%. So at least you know going in that, you've earned that level of honesty. What man,
Yeah, it's real. And as a senior leader, I would say this, like when you reach out to prompt a conversation or a meeting, let it be known on the front end. A text message that says, "Hey, can we sit down and talk for a few minutes?" Nothing's bad. It's not urgent. Just that right there says,
right.
"Okay, I can breathe." Or I need to have a last 10% conversation. I actually like to ask the question, "Is this a good time?" And if they say no,
I just
great.
saying no.
They say no. The next question is, "Awesome, when's a good time?"
Okay.
And so within the next 24 hours, when's a good time? Because if you wait too long, you just forget the urgency, right? But it's good.
All right. Two last questions I want to ask you. So to the person who's not in charge and they're currently working for someone who is not as awesome as your boss. Okay. What would you tell them? Like, this is great, Pastor Kevin. You work at a church and you serve the Lord and you probably pray all day and you guys sing worship songs and you open your day with prayer and then you probably end it with prayer. But my boss is not like that.
Right.
What do you say to them?
We don't open every day in prayer. We open our week in prayer. Okay. Um, so it's a matter of perspective, if we're being honest. Like, I do have an awesome boss. You're incredible to work for so many reasons. I think many of the practices that you hear about on this podcast and the way that you think and operate, it appeals to very high impact leaders. So I will say that I could see a more managerial leader living a little frustrated sometimes, but I think to people that can lead things, great to work for. But I've worked for the other side too.
Mhm.
And on the other side, what you have to keep in mind is perspective says that like a boss can be awesome, but they're also people. Like people don't have every day that's awesome. You're afforded some days that are just not great days. So in those moments, you just got to keep a mature perspective. And you gotta ask the question, is this thing that's going on, like, is it temporary or is it toxic? Because if it's temporary, if it's just a bad stretch, okay, that happens. So you've gotta be able to step back and go, I'm putting trust in the gap. Like, this is just a bad season. But if there's toxicity, that's something that you need outside perspective on. You need some people that love you and care about you to go, hey, I actually think it's something that may be broken with that person. And at that point, you do have to take care of yourself. Like you don't need to like be a doormat. You're like,
Right, yeah, if you're in a toxic work environment, especially if your work environment, so we're in a faith environment, and if my boss is asking me to violate, like, biblical principle, then I'm just gonna have to make a decision that I'm gonna trust that God's gonna provide for me. I'm not gonna stay in that toxic environment. That's what I would encourage somebody.
exactly. If you can't be honest with them, if there's just all those kind of things, you're walking on eggshells all the
It's 90,000 hours of your life. It's not worth it.
exactly. Yeah, if you're always having to guess how they are, like those are things that again, is it temporary or is it toxic? And if it's temporary, you can kind of wait that out and you can kind of make it through. No boss is awesome in every season. They're human too. Uh, Listen, every person in the second chair, the reality is you would do some things different. You would.
Mhm.
My question is, so? So? Because if you were in their seat and somebody was in yours, guess what? They would do it different too. So it's just part of like it's part of the process. And so, yeah, not every boss is awesome. Not every boss is awesome every day, but none of that means that you can't be. My take on it is that you can be everything that you need to be in this season. For the bosses out there, I would say the most powerful words in your vocabulary is "I'm sorry." It's just, I was wrong. I missed that one. That's all right. Like those kind of things that they happen. But as the people that work on a team, they work for a boss, you do have to choose. You have to choose humility. So is it okay if I share a Bible verse?
Go for it.
So this verse comes out of Philippians chapter 2. You're familiar with this. It talks about really the ultimate uh, teammate, the ultimate leader, the ultimate follower was Jesus himself. And the Apostle Paul describes it this way in verse 5 of Philippians chapter 2. It says, in your relationship with one another, I would put in there, in your boss employee team relationship, have the same mindset of Christ, who in being very nature God, I mean, he was God who became God in the flesh, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. I think as those of us who work for a boss, we have to look at it and go, I have gifts, talents, things to offer. I can use those for the advantage of my leader and for the place that I work for, and ultimately for a greater good, whatever that may be. Or I can leverage it for my own good. And it feeds selfishness when we leverage it for our own good. But he says, rather than do that, make himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, is what Jesus did, being made in human likeness and being found in the appearance of a man. He humbled himself. That's the key to any working relationship. Hopefully, we don't have to become obedient to death, but we're willing to become obedient to death to our idea or our agenda or our feeling that day. You just got to like rise above that, just like he did. And then it goes on to say that God exalted him to the highest place. You want to get promoted? You want to earn the first chair? Be great in the second one. Just be great where you are. And if you're great and humble, I mean, he did it with Jesus, exalted him. You will get you'll get your voice. You'll earn your influence, but you don't have to fight for it. You
Yeah.
can trust that God is who he says he is.
I think it's great. I appreciate you saying that, and, I just think about how Scripture tells us that God will, he'll humble the proud, but he will exalt the humble, and so there's definitely a lot of power in that. I appreciate you sharing that. Alright, last question. So it's the Fully Alive podcast. I wanna ask you this question: what does it mean to you, Kevin Lloyd, to live fully alive?
I thought about this because I've listened to every episode, and as I should, I've listened to 'em, and I've been around you talking about this for a long time. It's difficult for me not to go John 10:10. I read it in a book somewhere, But I'll say, I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of family, and I heard a quote years ago that said, "Success is being loved and respected, by the people you go home to." And I think for me, I'm in this season where, like, fully alive for me, just right now, is, man, I've got a great life. Life is good. It's surrendered to Jesus, a great place to call home, a great place to call to work, great friends and relationships. And to me, it's knowing that every day when I go home, I can take a breath and know that I'm in the center of what God has put me on this planet to do. And it's to love the people that are around me and to just wrap my arms around the fact that I'm able to do what I love to do with people that I love to do it. And the people that I'm around love me back. And it may sound simple, but for me, that's in this season what it means to live fully alive.
Well, you are a massive asset and a blessing to myself, Michelle and I, our team. For the folks that want to be able to follow along, you drop leadership nuggets on social media at
Kevin
Kevin Lloyd Live.
Live. Yeah.
At Kevin Lloyd
Yeah.
Live.
That's it.
Follow, and I'm just grateful for you.
Thank you.
And
Likewise.
so, on behalf of our church, our community,
Uh,
we're better because of you.
well,
And I just want to say thank you. And again, for those of you on the podcast, this has been an incredible time. I hope you can take some of this back to your work environment. You can lead in that 360 dimension, and we'll see you right here next week, fully live.